Hey friends, thanks for clicking on this video. This was actually recorded on the line. You can find the full episode and their channel in the description of this video, so definitely drop them a follow. I was lucky enough to sit down with Aaron Adair and talk to a young woman named Tabitha who came in as a flirt and a religious one and even deconstructed in the middle of the conversation. It was a marvelous conversation. I hope you enjoy it.
Let's bring in Tabitha, pronoun she, her, from Texas. She says the earth is flat. So, Tabitha, can you hear us?
Yes, I can.
How you doing tonight?
I'm good. How are you?
Okay. So, a perhaps provocative statement, earth is flat. How do you want to talk about this?
I don't know. It doesn't matter to me. However y'all want to talk about it. I do strongly believe the earth is flat. A lot of it pertains to also believing in the Bible as well, especially when it comes to talking about the firmament.
So, would you say that if one were to show that the earth is spherical, that would disprove the Bible and you would become an atheist?
Probably, honestly, at this point, not everything's going so great in my life right now anyway. So, yeah, I would say
Sorry to
so.
hear that.
Because I would strongly believe, one thing or another. So, it's kind of hard to believe in one thing and keep it going straight. You kind of believe in multiple things. But yeah, if one could be disproven wholeheartedly, I probably would not believe in God anymore.
Well, I will note that if you come over to our side, it's not that bad of a place. We got milk and cookies. We can actually be pretty happy even as atheists. But nonetheless, let's talk about the science claim. So, would you
Okay.
agree that the vast majority of scientists would say the Earth is round?
Yeah, I believe that most of them would say that, yeah.
Okay. So, what insight do you have that somehow has been missed by the vast majority of the people who explore the world for their livelihood?
I think that what I prefer to the most is probably like when looking at flat maps versus the rounded globe maps, and looking into like flight patterns and things of that nature when it comes to things like that. Um, the flight patterns don't make sense on a globe when you look at it from a globe map, but then when you look at it from a flat map, it makes perfect sense on how
Well,
everything
let's
is
talk about
moving
the
about.
flat map versus globe map when it comes to aircraft. So, can you give an example of what you mean?
So, when you're looking at, flight patterns on a flat map, they make sense. Like, if the lines make sense of why we have to go this way or that way to go to certain countries or certain cities. Like for instance, like flying from California to Texas or going overseas to Japan. It just makes more sense on a flat map.
You say it makes sense, but let me test something. When you are talking about a flat map, what map are you referring to? Because flat earthers don't necessarily agree on what the map of the world is. So, what kind of map are you referring to as the flat Earth map?
The ones that they use for flight pattern recognitions, that's the one I've seen online that makes sense to me the most.
Who is they?
What do you mean they?
You said that the map that they use for flight pattern recognition, but
Oh,
by
yeah.
they, do you mean
So
like the
back,
pilots and the flight
like
controllers? Because
in,
they don't use a
yes,
flat map.
well, the flat map that they talk about, like when they're learning flight patterns, they say that there's a flat map for it. That's the only one I've seen online. I've only seen one flat map online, and then I've also seen the older maps, maybe those older maps when it shows like the continents all together in one piece land map. That
Well,
too.
that's not a
'Cause
flat. That's not a map showing the Earth is flat. That was a map showing what the Earth looked like tens or hundreds
before,
of millions of years ago.
yeah, yeah. But I don't know. I think the Earth is flat. I do. It just makes the most
So,
sense to me because
well,
I mean
Out of curiosity, Tabitha, how much have you
Yeah.
traveled?
I've only traveled within the United States.
Okay. Because I was going to bring up an observation that I have done, and I wanted to see if you might have seen something similar. So, I grew up in the northern Midwest states. I currently live in Massachusetts, but I've also visited as far south as Puerto Rico. And
Okay.
the thing I noticed was when I looked at the moon and the phases of the moon and how things look different just going as far as Puerto Rico. So on nights tonight, Tabitha, if you're watching the phases of the moon, what do you see?
hmm
Like, what do you personally
Well,
see?
just us. I mean, I personally see the moon like pretty good. I would assume, because I mean, I did live in New Hampshire for a couple of years,
Okay.
so I have seen the moon from there, and it looks further away almost in a sense, whereas in Texas, because I live in Texas, it looks bigger. So I personally have noticed that the moon looks bigger here in Texas versus up north.
I hear everything's bigger in Texas, but that's another story. But specific to the phases of the moon, you probably, if you watch from night to night, you would watch like the bright side of the moon move from like right side to left side, darkness from right to left. That's generally the sorts of
hmm
phases you see here in the good old U.S. of A, or at least in the contiguous states of the U.S. of A. I remember
Okay.
though when I was astonished going to Puerto Rico, which is further south, and noticing that the moon was going through its phases almost on its
Backwards.
side.
Okay.
And if I were to go further south to Australia, then I would actually see it going left to right in the opposite direction. How does that work on a flat map?
Well, honestly, that makes more sense. If the with the world being around, that would make more sense. But I also think that everything kind of looks different from different parts of the world, regardless of what shape we are.
But some observations are not possible. Let me have another go at this as well. Again, you're in Texas. There are okay. How familiar are you with the various stars in the night sky?
I know about like the Big Dipper, Little Dipper, and the North Star.
Perfect, excellent. North Star, Polaris. Yes, it's a good star. Not particularly bright, but it does its job. It tells me where generally north is.
hmm
And since you've been both in New Hampshire and in Texas, maybe you've noticed, you may not have measured it, but maybe you've noticed that actually how high up Polaris is above the ground is different in Texas versus New Hampshire.
hmm
And
Yeah,
further, if you actually were to go south, and I mean south of the equator, you wouldn't be able to see Polaris at all.
interesting. I've never been that far south, so I wouldn't know.
I'm giving everyone reasons to travel and explore the world. Of course, that's maybe a little bit expensive, but well, I
Very
mean, like I
expensive
said, you
right
could
now in
travel
this
to Puerto
economy.
Rico relatively cheaply. I'm trying to think what would be a cheap, and I'm putting cheap in square quotes because what's cheap for one person is their life savings in another. So I need to be careful. But even
Yeah.
going, north south in the US, if you just drive in your car, you're going to notice a pretty, significant shift in the angle of the sky of Polaris. And in fact, it follows your latitude pretty much exactly. So if you were to go to the North Pole, not saying that you should hop in your car and go to the North Pole, there's some water you have to drive over to do that. But if you were to do that, Polaris would be directly overhead.
Okay.
And that doesn't happen here in the US at all. If you're further north in
Right.
Canada, it's higher up in the sky, closer to the high point of the sky. And the closer you get to the equator, the lower and lower it's in the sky. If you're at the equator itself, it's pretty much at ground level. It's never like really above the horizon. And if you go south of the
hmm
equator, it's not visible at all. And this is extremely expected on the round Earth model. In fact, there's a nice direct correspondence between your line of latitude and the elevation angle of Polaris in the sky. And conversely, if you're too far south, you can't see it at all. why on a flat Earth would you not suddenly be able to see certain stars?
That gives me a good reason to think about that, for sure.
And I want to at least start with
Sorry.
observations that you can do. I don't want you having to go and depend on anybody else. I don't want you to, I could, say like, how about the bazillions of photos of Earth from NASA? But just here are the observations you, Tabitha, could do this weekend.
Okay. What would I need to
What do you
look
think
for
about that?
in my little sky?
So, all right. Well, like I say, the things you could do is if you're willing to take this much of a road trip, notice how the stars in the sky shift going north to south. That Polaris is higher up in the sky as you go further north, and lower in the sky as you go further south. And if you were to go south enough, you wouldn't even be able to see Polaris at all, because, as at least the round earther would say, the Earth itself is in the way. You've now curved away so much that you would have to look through the Earth to see Polaris. So that's one thing you could do. Literally drive enough to see that difference in angle, but to drive enough to measure that difference in angle, you're going to have to drive or fly quite a bit, because I think each line of latitude, like every degree of latitude, is like 30 something miles. I can't remember the number off the top of my head, but you're going to be in a car for hours to have probably an appreciable difference in measurement. But it's something you could do. You don't have to depend on anybody else to do this observation.
Okay. So
here's also another fun thing you could do.
Here's my little question for you. My little question would be, so you know how supposedly, like I guess so not everyone can see the North Star, and then that would mean like not everyone can see like Little Dipper, Big Dipper, either, right?
Right. And here in the Northern Hemisphere, here in the US, there are constellations we can't see, but folks down in Chile can see quite easily.
Interesting. I'll have to look into that.
It's also true, Tabitha, that we've got a lot of technology that only works on a globe Earth. One example that I don't talk about enough is the Coriolis flow meter. So I'm an electrical engineer by trade, and my industry uses a lot of Coriolis flow meters, and they only work because the Earth is spinning and it creates an inertial force. So when the water flows down, there's enough inertial force to force it to actually begin to rotate as it flows down some sort of a tube. And it's really predictable. We can measure the amplitude, we can measure the rate of spin, we can measure all kinds of stuff, the density of the fluid. And all of this only works because of the Coriolis effect. If the Earth wasn't spinning, none of our Coriolis flow meters would do a dang thing. But when you pumped your lotion or squirted your shampoo out into the bottle, all those things were filled with the machine using a Coriolis meter. Every bottle you have in your house has been filled with a Coriolis meter. All of this brought to you by a spinning globe Earth.
That kind of makes everything kind of sad, though, doesn't it? Because if you believe the Earth is round, and then that brings in the God complex of like not believing God is real, then it's kind of turns into one of those things where, is life really magical, or is it really just kind of sad to like not have something to look forward to? Like I feel like a lot of people that have issues with being atheist, it comes back to I want to believe that I'll see, my family again when I die and go to heaven and this and that. So sometimes I feel like that's probably most people have issues with it because of the life. If it's just this and it's just now and this is it kind of sucks.
Well, yeah. I mean, that's why some people end up in nihilism. But
yeah,
I mean, when it comes to
death, it just makes life kind of sad. I mean, I think that's why a lot of people want to hold on to that.
Yeah, let's just say this much: the reviews on Amazon for Death is 0 out of 5 stars. Clearly, it's not popular, but it also seems to be, part of the reality we're kind of stuck with. I should also note this. I mean, yes, I'm an atheist. Yes, I'm trying to promote people coming to my side of things, but the earth being round does not prove God does not exist. So I want to make sure that we're not making that kind of leap. So if you think there are other good reasons that God exists, that's something else we would have to discuss. I would not want to make the non sequitur, if the earth is round, therefore God does not exist. That's a leap that I would not be willing to make. And I want people to leap to my side of theology.
Well, I mean, I think most people would think that because if they believe in like Christianity and they're reading the Bible and they stick with the Bible, it talks about the firmament and then it talks about the earth is flat. Like it literally, I mean, that's
Job
the projection of
38:14.
it. So, so I mean, without that, it kind of just, I mean, that's how you're going to get a lot of people on your side is by, making that assumption that maybe the Bible's not right. Okay, so maybe God does exist, but at the same time, it would just take a lot of beautiful things away from life in general to make that assumption or to believe that this is it.
Well, I would argue the beautiful things in life are the things that are real. And even though my time in this universe is finite, and I don't have reason to believe that 50 years from now, this husk of meat is going to do the things it does now, I still find value getting up every day, seeing my wife, talking to my family, my friends, my cat, doing the things I find valuable and trying to bring value into the world. I find this to be beautiful and wonderful. It's autumn time here in New England. I'm now watching the trees, change colors, and that's beautiful whether or God exists.
That is beautiful whether God exists or not. I just think that for a lot of people that do believe in God, it goes a little bit further than just. I mean, we still find beauty in the things that we can see and the things that are real, the things that we can touch. But I think where you start losing people is that, like, one day you're just not going to wake up anymore. You're not going to see anybody anymore. You're just going to cease to exist. And I rather choose to believe that one day I'm going to see my daughter again. One day I'm going to see, family I haven't seen in a long time. And I think that's where people, they choose to believe that God is real because of the small things. Because, a lot of people have gone through harsh things, growing up, and, you hope that things get better, but they don't sometimes. And sometimes you're just stuck in an endless loop of one thing after another. And I mean, I would say a lot of time, probably in my childhood and most of my like early 20s, that believing in God is the only reason why I'm still alive. Because if not,
Christianity
I probably would have taken.
Could be.
I probably would have taken my life if I didn't believe God was real.
Well, we certainly don't want that. But Christianity could be not true, and there could still be a God. You know that, right?
Yeah, I understand that. Totally understand that. But I mean, sometimes I think that people tend to cling to that because that might be the only thing that is keeping them alive at the moment.
Oh, I think
do
some
want to
people
notice,
do,
Tabitha, this means actually the power is with you, again, whether God exists or not, because you're saying your belief, your actions, your thoughts is what's giving you that sense of value and that sense of purpose.
Correct.
So that means you're the one who's actually structuring that life.
My own personal battle. Yeah, I totally agree.
It's not even a matter of battle, but you have to realize that even whether God exists or not, you are still the one saying, this is what gets me out of bed. This is what becomes meaningful to me. This means, it's still worth pushing forward. And that means that power is with you no matter what. So Tabitha, you're stronger than you think, and you don't need the supernatural to give you that strength.
Oh, I think that I do, though, sometimes.
There's hard days, absolutely.
Sometimes. Yeah. It's been
just
hard
a little bit
lately,
personal.
Let's just say that.
Yeah. I actually lost my aunt just last weekend, and man, oh man, do I miss her, because she was like 90% heart, and the other 10% was laughter. That she was so wonderful and a great part of my life, and now she's gone, and the only thing left are the memories and the legacy that she left. Unfortunately, she lived a good long life, and I feel that's what I can take solace in, and realizing I'm glad she was a part of my life. And even though she'll never be a part of living again, she's still a part of my life, and that will be true until things don't matter for me.
Right. I love it. That is the most beautiful thing about getting to know your family and being close to people in general, regardless of if you're related to them or not. I mean, that is the most beautiful thing about being a person and getting to know other people. I have definitely lost my share of people as well. So, yeah.
What I can tell you, Tabitha, is I know at the beginning stages of the deconstruction, when your brain starts to tell you that the math isn't mathing anymore, and the idea that you're going to live forever and see your loved ones again starts to gradually fade away, because it's not no one flips a switch. It's a gradual process. What I can tell you is that it's hard. Like what you're feeling right now is what I felt. It's what a lot of people felt when they went through it. It's normal. It's perfectly normal. We all went through it. But I can also tell you that it gets better, and that you go through the stages of grief, just like if you lost a loved one, or somebody left you on the curb, you got your heart broken. You go through the stages of grief, and you deal with it. Humans are really resilient. We're really fucking resilient. And I know that
I'm a little too resilient. I'm a little too resilient, honestly, at this point in my life.
I mean, based on what you've said so far, it looks like you're an honest person, which means you're taking in the data and you're going to come to the conclusion that matches the data eventually, right? And so,
more than likely, I mean, honestly, just because I do feel like in our world and our society and everything, that the math hasn't been mathing for a while, and as I've gotten older, things have really just changed for me a lot.
Remember, did you ever have a teenage sweetheart, like your first flame?
No, no, I did not, because I was scared of of falling for anyone, because I got to watch my sister have a baby when I was 14.
Oh yeah.
So
I know that feeling.
I stayed away from anybody and everybody. I waited till way after high school to start doing anything with anybody. So
I always felt that leaving the God concept was a lot like losing your first love. When it first happens, you're like, oh my God, I'll never find somebody else. Like, you're so heartbroken. You're just like, I'll never be happy again, right? But the reality is you'll be fine. We always, you found somebody new eventually, or you moved on. And the God thing does the same thing. It's the same trajectory. But the beginning stages of it, you are sad, and sometimes you're angry. I remember I went through a period there where I was just pissed. I was just mad, because I was like, I would have done everything so much differently if I had known, right? And so, like, but these are healthy stages. Like, you have to you have to express them. You have to have these emotions. But I would also recommend talking to a professional. There are actually counseling professionals and people that do therapy specifically in this space. And I can personally tell you, a good friend of mine in this space, Dr. Joanne Ketch, if you Google her, you'll find her. She specifically works with people recovering in deconstruction and also recovering some substance abuse. That's kind of her two specialties. Good friend of mine.
Okay.
But I highly recommend talking to a professional, because they'll help you to give the tools that you may not have, or they'll give you the space you need to express all of those emotions, so that they don't like come out at work. You know what I mean?
I've had way too much stuff come out at work already. I mean, I've been working the same job for over 10 years. So, I mean, they've seen every side of me. I literally had a seizure at work, and so my coworkers like freaked out while we were at lunch. So yeah, they've seen me at my worst.
Yeah, we get it.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
I mean, it's a difficult journey. Yeah.
It is, and I think that's why a lot of
alone.
people just choose not to do the journey because they just don't want, like, I mean, it just makes everything hard in general.
They don't,
like, I just
they
feel
don't
like
care enough about the truth.
It's right.
Mhm.
They don't care enough about the truth because you know what? Sometimes the lie is easier to accept than the truth, and
Right.
sometimes it
Yeah.
makes it easier for you to get through the day. And
Right.
I think that that's probably why a lot of people don't want to sit down and don't want to talk about it. They don't want to hear about it. They don't want to accept it. They just want to blatantly just come to the conclusion that you're wrong, I'm right, what I say goes, this is my life, you have no control over me.
Right.
You know? So, yeah. Well, have to give a shout out to my friend who told me to call into you guys, Gage. He lives in Illinois. He's the one who watches y'all on a regular, and he's the one who said, hey, you're my skeptic friend. You should call in and tell them that you believe the Earth is flat, because he gives me crap about it, too, all the time.
Yeah, well, we're glad that you called.
Yeah.
So, yeah, shout out to him, and I hope y'all have a wonderful night.
Thank you,
You
Tabitha.
do the same.